The following documentary is an honest account of evidence secured and what was uncovered in the home of Keith Linder, and should not be considered for entertainment purposes only.
Today is August the 5th, 2014. Hello, this is Keith Linder. Today at 3:39, I got an email saying that motion was detected in the house. Upon checking the email, I saw this photo. Got home about an hour ago. So what you're about to see are the events of the email notification. Once again, this is similar to before, of a presence, of an entity, of an energy ransacking my belongings. This is my office. This is my place of work. This is my refuge. This is AKA the man cave, bat cave. And as you can see, it needs a little bit of tidy-upping. None of this was done by me. This is what I walked into when I got home. Everything, or half of the stuff that's in my closet, once again, is on the floor. Speaker, floor. The computer monitors, both monitors in fact, were facing down. I lifted them up. There's some of my mail on the floor, chairs knocked over. You can see partial of the hallway was in disarray. And you can look here and see Bible was on the floor, we put that up. My hall camera is now gone. That clock, which was once plugged in, is not plugged in. I plugged it in because I wanted to keep track of how many hours transpired before a power outage. These attacks normally begin once the power goes off. I'm still clueless as to how long that power is off, but paper on the floor, ladder, my vacuum cleaner, you can't see it, was badly damaged. So there you go there. Let's go back to the office. Nothing new here. Well, there's a lot new here, but a weak rendition of a cross here. Poor excuse in my opinion. And lo and behold, of course, the cliche normal 666, as well as on my closet, which a few weeks ago I painted. Looks like I'm going to be painting this weekend. Well, but the other house was affected, other parts of the house, the living room, master bedroom, but that's already nothing out of the ordinary, and those, the previous videos already state those perfectly. Wine rack open, bottles on the floor, cabinet drawers and all that stuff, couch, love seat, the whole nine, so nothing new there. All that's been captured in previous video, but I did want to capture the office, so let me just turn this off and get to cleaning up, see if my computer and monitors are working. This is August the 5th, 2014, Keith Linder. I'm not making this up. In the event that others have reviewed this, please study this, and I will make my documentation known, because this is not me. What sane person does this to his own house? And I thank Almighty God for allowing us to stay or keep our sanity, because only through Him are we able to maintain and keep our sanity. This is not easy to deal with, but it's the cards we've been dealt, and Satan or whatever evil spirit that live here, we both know that your days are numbered. And on that, I'll close out. Amen.
In November 2015, we received a call from Keith Linder claiming his house was haunted. It transpired we'd been investigating one of the most controversial cases America had ever seen. Opinions are split. Some people believe this to be a hoax, other people believe it to be genuine.
I think part of it is that nobody believed him when Ghost Adventures came. They just didn't believe him.
Linder convinced parapsychologist Steve Mera and paranormal specialist Don Phillips from the UK.
The British scientist will spend a full week with Keith, documenting everything with cameras, lasers, and microphones, and hopefully come up with a theory to answer the question why. And that's just what Keith wants.
The doors are open.
Bothell resident Keith Linder has witnessed events that would rival anything you might see on X-Files. He's come home to find his kitchen in chaos. Keith has experienced a number of phenomena in his home, but one that was most alarming is this Bible that caught fire after being left here, and it didn't leave any ash or any smoke residue.
Phillips crawled underneath the home.
I was a bit concerned earlier on because we kind of lost him for about 20 minutes.
A previous team, Ghost Adventures, had been in and left with zero evidence and kind of painted us in a wrong light of attention-getting, hoaxing.
But he refused to give up. Linder just wanted an explanation for the phenomenon.
When we first was contacted by Keith at our department, we went through some vigorous talks with him to ascertain what had actually happened. And there was a number of things that sparked our interest, so we decided to come along, try and find out what's actually happening here, and hopefully help out Keith a little bit. And it has been, we were here for 6 days. We've only been here 1 day, which is pre-investigation at this time. We haven't actually properly started yet. But today we've already had some strange occurrences take place.
If you don't mind, can you kind of say what those strange occurrences are?
Sure, yeah. A little earlier we had a camera which moved, it was a motion detection camera, so it time stamped when it moved. And there was only us three here, Keith, myself and Don, and we were all actually in here, so we were all accountable at the time the camera was moved. So that was certainly interesting, and we've got some amazing audible phenomena. It would sound, it's speech, and you can hear them say something. I don't like to label spirits; that's just a name as far as I'm concerned. Definitely some form of intelligent force, which communicated by our recording devices. So we believe there's definitely something going on here.
What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, first thing is to try and identify the phenomena, and why it's doing what it's doing. Can it be suppressed? Is there certain things that would make this a better environment for Keith? And try and find out why the occurrences are happening. Usually, there's usually reasons why disturbances take place, be it the house, be it the location where the house is built, be it the individuals in that home. And we'll try and get to the bottom of that.
Have an object catch fire that's close to you, or an object that gets thrown that comes within inches of you. Yeah, that will freak you out. So if they throw an object, then it's going to be a series of 2 weeks of objects being thrown.
As well as receiving a lot of support, Keith and Tina also received their fair share of bad publicity. If you make a claim, especially on this scale, whether it's true or whether it's not, in today's society, you will be fired at from all sides and come under one or two raised eyebrows. What I will say is, in the time me and Steve was there conducting this investigation in the home of Keith Linder, he left us alone to get on with our job. He didn't try to influence the case or make any suggestions in any way. The condition we made to Keith was, we will come, we will investigate the case, and we will tell it exactly as we find it. And that's what we did. Furniture destroyed, Bibles catching fire, strange patterns and symbols appearing on the walls and ceiling, and Tina claims to have been the victim of an unseen entity when these scratch marks appeared on her arm. One person we was keen to speak to was the priest who performed the exorcism in the home of Keith Linder. Would Father Roy be able to offer any additional information to help us with the case? So the day before, we'd headed over there to find out. Okay, you mentioned about the atrocities that took place, and It was referenced to Keith's house. Did you mean literally around Keith's house or in areas of Seattle? How location specific is it to where Keith's home is today?
As I understand it, the graveyard is under Keith's house.
It's under Keith's house?
On the property. What I also understand is that when the construction company was given permission to build in that area, they were also given instructions to move the remains in the graves to a different spot.
Well,
And it was such a mess, but they just sort of said, well, what's a bone here or there?
Yeah.
well,
And so you've got that particular issue. And I do believe that what we were dealing with was a really pissed off Indian spirit. My understanding is that the graveyard for this incident is on Keith's property.
literally under Keith's.
Yeah, and it's not on the other properties around.
So that would be extended maybe. There's a creek at the rear of Keith's. So there's some kind of border where Keith's it must be like on the edge of possibly.
Right. Unless that creek was created or rerouted by the construction, which I don't have any idea of.
No.
That would certainly limit it, and it depends on how many Native Americans were slaughtered, because they might, if it's a mass grave, I don't think you're going to be particularly touchy about how you throw the bodies into the grave.
Okay, we have an exorcism has been performed, so we don't give people an idea that the exorcism was to rid the house because you thought that everything was evil spirits.
I didn't think it. I wasn't sure it was a demon. I'm not convinced it was a demon. I think it was a very, very upset spirit.
Father Roy told us that as far as he believed, Keith's home could have been built on an ancient burial ground. Now we were looking for records predating the construction of the housing development, and this meant a visit to City Hall. What we didn't get from City Hall was any information in relation to burial grounds or native Indians that were local to the Bothell area. We had nothing to go on. Could our own research shed any light on who these native tribes were, and furthermore, could we link them to the Bothell area? We found the earliest residents of the Sammamish River later become Bothell with a Native American tribe called the Willow People. They settled along the rivers and would live off the fish, the berries and the waterfowl, and were also known to be aggressive. At least now we'd found a direct link to native tribe in the Bothell area. We did get some information from City Hall, and one of the things that we thought was most curious was the fact that Keith's house actually occupied the exact same plot as a wooden cabin which was there before. That in itself does not sound particularly unusual, but there's over 100 current houses on that estate. Keith's house is the one that occupied the exact same plot as the wooden cabin. In the picture of the wooden cabin, things are actually reversed. The front of the cabin is the back of Keith's house, the back of Keith's house is the front of the cabin. So the actual front of it would have been facing down the creek. Directly related to the case, maybe not, but still it is pretty interesting.
People come over here, Native Americans or shamans, and they were saying that this at one time was, it was tribal land.
It wasn't long before inexplicable events began to unfold.
Whoa. You guys know where this has been since you've been here.
It was a louder sound than it did seem through the replication, but definitely this on the floor, and you can't get it off there. How did it fall? I don't know. And you can see the nail in the wall here, which holds this little light up. And it's sticking out the wall maybe a good 3/4 of an inch, and the recess in this is probably about 1/2 inch. And as I hook it on, like so, and that's how it pretty much was. And of course, what we heard was this action. Just drop this on the floor, you'll hear the sound. What's interesting about the light on the landing was that when it actually fell to the floor, about 7 foot and 2 inches, the recording devices downstairs did pick up the sound at 62 decibels. But the replication we did, trying to match the exact fall, only measured around about 39 decibels, which would indicate that the original sound source was not quite normal. Similar findings in this field has taken place. Dr. Colvin measured some unusualities in paranormal sounds, poltergeist rappings in fact, and he measured them against normal sounds of knocking on the wall with his hand, and it indicated that there was a significant difference. Though they may sound the same, they do not register the same in frequency. This would suggest that paranormal phenomena can maybe replicate audible sounds.
As the night fell, it was now time to prepare for the night's investigation. Steve set up some laser tripwires in areas associated with paranormal activity. As I prepared the audio capture device, and the area was now officially off limits.
So we close the door, total silence, so we'll have to check the recording from the door when the door closes.
Yes, we have a controlled environment. Okay, no problem.
Okay, so we'll come back and check that after we've been out.
During the investigation, I could feel a sudden strange energy emanating from the bedroom, so I called Steve to come and investigate further.
We entered into the top bedroom where Don was picking up a strange energy of some sort, but what was really interesting was that it was actually caught on the FLIR camera. The image on the spot of the FLIR camera, Don was immediately drawn to. He placed his hand near it. He claimed he could feel the energy coming from it.
We came in here last night and there was energy, and I'm describing it as an energy. Steve said they don't know what it was. I'm describing it as an energy that was emanating from the wall. It wasn't picking up thermal heats. That area was actually colder than anywhere else along that wall.
As if he could feel this spot on the camera. And of course, when we looked at that piece of footage, it was very interesting. We also took a second recording the following night in the same location, and surprisingly that anomaly wasn't there. There's nothing there.
So there's nothing there at the minute then, Steve?
No, there's nothing there at the minute, but we'll see how we go on through the night. We just never know.
In an hour or two. Okay, brilliant.
Probably one of the most remarkable things was the voices, the audible voices. In fact, a few of them came out the air. Now, I've spent 32 years in this field, and I've never come across anything like that before. And in fact, it did actually send a bit of a chill down my back. But nevertheless, though, these voices seemed to be answering to Don, answering questions, and came straight out the air. It was absolutely fascinating. I have no explanation for it, but some of these recordings were across numerous different recorders at the same time, recorded in a silent environment, and we got different things on them, which would suggest they're not harmonic. If that is the case, then some form of transplacement directly onto these pieces of equipment must be taking place, which has led us into the theory that transplacement phenomena could be directly to the human brain as well. There has been a number of occasions when we've heard voices, more than one of us, and in fact the recording devices didn't capture it.
Even prior to beginning the investigation and during setup, a disembodied voice was captured on one of the cameras recording us setting up the audio equipment. A disembodied voice which clearly said, "It's a camera." This was just the beginning. Comparing this on a graph, you can clearly see that myself and Steve's voice and the ambient sound on the left differ greatly to the pattern produced on the right hand side. It appears to be of a much higher frequency, and the voice in question does sound extremely close to the microphone than that of mine and Steve's own voices. It was during the investigation we found correspondence between Keith and the previous tenant. Keith reached out to them when he and Tina themselves began to feel uneasy in their new home. As you're about to hear, they themselves felt they'd fallen victim to unexplained phenomena taking place in this house.
It was the beginning of the end in that place. We have been through hell and back, and still we are. The kids were at the house with a friend of ours for a couple of weeks. She woke up to cupboard sounds in the kitchen, then went downstairs and found them all open. There were slamming of the kitchen cupboards heard by our nanny when we were away on a trip. The nanny also heard someone walking in the house at night. The slider to the back door shut on me, and my daughter was in the kitchen. It locked me out. The stove was on, and she was looking at me through the glass, screaming. We separated while there, and eventually we divorced. We went through hell in that house. I tried to kill myself several times and started drinking heavily. I hate that house and what it did to my soul. That's about it, Keith. Hope that helps. The TV and lights went on and off a lot by themselves, too.
As I understand it, the graveyard is under Keith's house.
We'd already established there was something going on this house. Could this property be built over a burial ground? Could this be the source of Keith's problems and the experiences of the previous tenants? If this was a remote possibility, I needed to get closer.
Okay, shut the hatch.
Okay.
Okay.
Not knowing what to expect or if I would actually encounter anything, I kept an open mind and slowly made my way through the crawl space.
Okay, so I'm in the crawl space of Keith's at the moment.
I could feel nothing unusual and was only aware of the very cramped, warm conditions. Would I encounter any evidence of anything paranormal? I kept an open mind. A short time later, and for apparently no reason, my walkie-talkie suddenly activated, taking me by surprise. Whatever it was that made the walkie-talkie suddenly activate left this strange pulsating electrical interference which continued to interfere with the camera.
Okay, at the minute I'm in the crawl space under Keith's. Earlier we spoke to the priest who did the exorcism here. He informed us underneath here, he said this house was built on a Native American burial ground. This could be the reason for the disturbances that Keith's reporting.
It's been down there for quite some time. Bit concerning.
So I'm going to crawl around, see if we can actually make contact with anybody. And if we're going to explore the place, we might as well do it top to bottom, quite literally. So okay, down a bit. It's kind of cramped. It's very, very warm. I'm surprised it's really, really warm. It's very, very dusty. I've just settled in a in a bit of a spot right now, and what I'm going to do is see if I can open any communication with anybody. Is everything okay up there? Over.
Yeah, Don, yeah, you okay? I've been wondering where you've been. Been going down there for quite some time now.
I've just kind of crawled into a little area where I'm just trying to do a few recordings. If there's anybody actually under here, buried under here, any ancient burial ground, etc., then I'm sure we'll get some kind of response. So I'll check back with you in about 5, okay?
Yep, okay, no problem.
Steve, can you confirm there's no TV or anything on upstairs? Okay, great, thanks.
My first attempt resulted in very little more than just static. Then everything changed when I suddenly felt a strong spirit presence, which suddenly came from nowhere.
Strong. I need to locate whereabouts they or you are. I need to confirm, are they native Indians? Can somebody tell me, are they native Indians? If that is the case, you just want to say, yes, they are, or I need somebody to say, they are native Indians. Or yes, native Indians.
This time, I got a response. And this voice was captured, which sounds neither Native American or indeed Irish, asked, "Who are you?" For several minutes, I continued asking questions in an attempt to get replies. This was another reply which sounds like a female that's asking, "Help us." Quite happy with the evidence I managed to secure in a relatively short time, I made my way back up to the surface to Steve, who set straight to work analysing the frequency range of the recordings.
The evidence tonight has been absolutely staggering, nothing less than that. We came here, we listened to Keith's story, we visited a priest. That priest told us something quite phenomenal, that there was evidence, or he believed, that the building, Keith's home, was built over, well, you know, settlements of people who have passed away and maybe still be here. And of course that's led to something quite unique. Don going out downstairs underneath the house of all things, and in fact I was a bit concerned earlier on because we kind of lost him for about 20 minutes, and you know, we could hear him puffing and panting under the floorboard. We lost track of him. Nevertheless though, he popped his head up, you know, absolutely flabbergasted. He said he's got these recordings, and I thought, well, okay, let's listen to them, you know. And I went over there and we put them on, and you know, I've never heard anything like it. They were as if they were there just talking to him.
I have watched Don Phillips and Steve Mera come into this house and each day compile, gather, analyze, and show me the evidence. This has been a new and I guess very new experience, in the sense that finally, there are now substantiated evidence, proof to the claims that I have been saying of seeing things with my own eyes and experiencing. And what Don and Steve have come in is really take the bull by the horn and provide their 60 plus years of experience in dealing with the paranormal and dealing with science to uncover some interesting truths, not only about the house, about the land, about the people that occupied the land prior to this house being built. So for that, I am still in awe. And this is only day 3 out of day 5. So I'm pretty sure tomorrow I'm going to be even more in evidence that they're able to pull from this house. And right now I can easily say 100% the house is providing them evidence almost willingly.
Okay guys, can you please confirm for me the brothel case we've just done, that there is nothing negative and nothing there to harm or the intent of harming Keith Linder now? Thank you. Not only did the spirit personality respond, but it responded using the same keyword I'd asked in the initial question. Do you confirm? The evidence was now mounting, and I'd achieved many successful spirit communications already in the time that we'd been in Keith Linder's, but we needed independent evaluation, so we sent some samples to long-term paranormal researcher Barry Fitzgerald.
My name is Barry Fitzgerald, and I'm a long-time researcher of the supernatural and a world traveller. Don Phillips and Stephen Mera forwarded me some samples of EVPs they captured on one of their cases and asked for my analysis. I found it interesting when breaking the samples into various frequency ranges that the male voice, which can be clearly heard in the EVP, actually appears stronger in the higher ranges and way above the ranges of the normal human male or female voice.
Working with Don for a couple of years, I've witnessed some profound phenomena, and in fact people that have been with us I just don't know how to explain it. It's very, very bizarre. Call it an ITC specialist, a catalyst, these numerous different names, but at the end of the day, paranormal phenomena certainly seems to manifest around him. It definitely sounds like this.
Yeah, so we'll carry on. Recording each room. We'll go downstairs. We can review those. You receiving over? I said, are you receiving? Obviously you are. You got anything to record downstairs? We spent several minutes upstairs as I took several recordings, recorded in each room, one at a time, including the dry room, where some very interesting vocal responses were captured. So this is the one that said outside. Downstairs, check the recordings, play them through the amplifier to see if they still sounded the same to us as they did as captured on the digital recorder. So within this, we're going to see if we can pick out and identify what's been said. We've had get out of here, it sounded like go outside. Right, there is what we thought said get out of here. We'll play that again.
Team from the scientific establishment of parapsychology just released their report that says it may be the spirits of Irish settlers. Tonight, you can decide for yourself.
By now, I'd engaged with many spirits and captured many responses. This is a selection of some of the best from both underneath and around the home of Keith Linder.
Is any Irish gentlemen or ladies here? Thank you.
And I've done a little bit of research since we heard those voices.
And come to find out, the Irish settled in Washington State in the mid to late 1800s. They prospered very well here in Western Washington. They were bankers and farmers and newspaper publishers, and they were middle class to the very wealthy here. And they didn't have to face this discrimination that they did in their country. They had freedom of religion here. And we still have a very large population of Irish descendants, from people from Irish descendants here.
I saw things happening, and I kind of explained what those things could be. I needed somebody else to come in to verify even my own incidents, my own reports. That person was Nick Kyle. Nick is a very respected gentleman from the Scottish Society of Psychical Research in Scotland. He spent many years in the paranormal, and he was very sceptical. He came on board, he came to Seattle and witnessed phenomena himself, and he was quite taken back about it.
So unclear on your relationship with these guys. You are an independent. You know them but not connected with them.
I've never worked with them before. I know of them, and I was interested in their case. When they said they were coming back for a second visit, I said that I felt their case, if they came across phenomena, would be strengthened if they could have someone independent who could scrutinise their work and be available as a point of reference. You know, if they say that they did a particular methodology, I'm there to say that's correct, they did. And if they got a particular result at the end of that, then yeah, I was there, and that's what happened.
And from what you've seen, what is your impression or your interpretation?
My impression is that the SSPR has been investigating cases for 29 years in Scotland, and that this is a fairly typical case in recent days. And I would say that Steve is meticulous in his approach. Don is a curiosity, because what's happening with him would appear to be paranormal, and I still can't figure out how he can do what he can do. But I'm here not so much to pass judgment as to be an independent witness, but rather than someone off the street or someone with obvious integrity. I do have a background in investigating cases, and the SSPR in Scotland is a conservative, highly ethical body. We're very careful in what we do, and I think that's probably what the guys wanted: someone who's cautious, careful, conservative, and will not seek to curry favour. So as much as I like these guys, having met them, I won't see anything that I am not sure about.
Let me back up. So Don is a curiosity. Does Don attract paranormal activity? Does he draw it out, do you think?
He seems to.
Having seen their scientific methods, are you in the belief that what they have obtained is credible?
Yes, in most cases. Some phenomena have happened when we've not been expecting it. So maybe one of us is sleeping, or for example, the stuff that came from the woods, we were only able to observe from a distance. Right? But generally speaking, they tell it like it is, and I would be able to say for certain phenomena that have been captured, as it were, yeah, I was there, and the way they're telling it is how it happened.
Do you think Keith may be the source of some of this?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that Keith's reaction to things can magnify the energy, let's say, available, mental, emotional, maybe spiritual. And I think he's changed. He's much more clued in now that a low-key reaction, and possibly even diverting his attention, will calm things. Yeah.
Which I'm going to replace one just here and one on the bed frame as well, because of reported vibrations. I'm going to leave them as they are.
The passive infrared go off upstairs for no apparent reason we could find. But what that seemed to trigger the second response, a vibration detector that was placed on Keith's bed in the master bedroom, was suddenly seen to be found a foot away from its resting place, upside down on the floor, and of course had been triggered. When we went in there, we couldn't find a rational explanation for that, but the EMF meter was given a reasonably high spike exactly at that location of 9 milligauss. It's never returned that under any conditions of lighting, during the day, during the night, and that's also another mystery.
When you get a tripwire or a laser beam being broken by something physical, and then in another part of the room, another PIR sensor has been triggered, and you go up and you find the vibration sensor has been moved off the bed, and that these three things are being discovered within seconds of each other, I would say, because we know there was no one in the room, that deserves an explanation, and it's very difficult because there's three different types of alarm being set off there, and one of them was physically moved. Don's been very good at showing me upon request his recorder, and I've regularly or frequently checked it to make sure that it's either completely clean or I know what's on it, so anything else is additional.
We've had Don, who went over the fence a couple of nights ago down towards the creek around about 2 o'clock in the morning, which was interesting because we did pick up some vocal responses down there. There was a gentleman on request of asking his name, he said Ray. That was captured on 2 recording devices simultaneously, which is interesting. We also seemed to have heard what I can only describe as a child, which is unusual because, it's around about 2 o'clock in the morning. If it's coming from a distant house somewhere, apparently it wasn't heard by Don, and it wasn't captured on a second piece of recording equipment, which is interesting.
Some of what happened in the woods, I think, is intriguing. Others I would put down to the wonderful recording equipment that Olympus use, which seems to pick things up a quarter mile away.
Could be voices from far off.
Some of it.
Could be a kind of a mixture of the two.
Yeah, it could be, but if you get a sensible answer on a recorder to a question you've just posed, and it wasn't pre-recorded, then that's not picking up random stuff if it happens again and again.
Ultimately, you're here I'm lost the words, but you're here to to ensure that their methods are accurate and that their scientific method is accurate.
Anybody who makes a bold claim in today's world can expect to get hostile criticism. People who work in this field are very often the subject of character assassination. I've been very fortunate in being a voice in Scotland who's known to be careful, conservative, cautious, and nobody's fool. So I've come here at my own expense to see if these guys are telling the truth, and so far they have done exactly what I would have expected, and they've come up with results that I can verify.
We did also do what we refer to as a strobe experiment on the upstairs landing. I believe that was last night. And we set that running for about an hour, and it would seem that something had passed the webcam a number of times on motion detection, and the motion camera actually caught it, as if something had passed from left to right on 2 occasions. That's quite interesting.
As before, environmental monitoring equipment was set up, recorders were placed and the rooms were sealed off. And just like before, it wasn't long before inexplicable events began to unfold.
We got tripwire going off in the master bedroom.
We are still looking into why this picture would have left the wall at the same time the alarms were triggered. Also coinciding with the alarm going off. One of those events was these strange substances that began to weep down the walls around the house.
You're the guide here. Show me what you want to talk about.
Okay, so there's a multitude of little occurrences going on, for which we haven't actually got explanations at this time. One of the alarms went off in the bedroom. Steve ran upstairs.
Okay.
At the point he got there, this picture literally fell, we don't know, there was a bang, we came out, the picture was wedged, absolutely wedged in there.
I actually found the whole picture thing actually quite interesting. Nick Kyle, unfortunately, wasn't there to witness the event, so therefore he thought there was just a couple of seconds elapsed time between when Steve passed the picture and it actually hit its resting place. This actually wasn't the case. I've been talking with Steve for several seconds in the doorway at the top of the stairs prior to this event occurring.
Steve, to go grab a cup of upstairs.
So I'm coming up the stairs.
Was in the doorway, and that came off the wall. Pretty up there?
Yeah, it was actually held on, apparently. Middle brackets instead of these hooks up here.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously the question then is, for example, when Steve's running up, did his vibration on the stairs cause the picture to fall down?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So I did a number of experiments to find out, and that involved Steve starting from the same location. As he got to this point, I would drop the picture, and then we'd measure the time and distance it took from when the picture fell to where Steve was at the time when we heard the bang. At that time, Steve was in the bedroom doorway there. If you were in a pit and you knocked this off the hook and it went down, the weight of that going down would twist that one at a different angle.
Maybe, yeah, that's true.
Okay, so you know what? I think it's unlikely you hit it more than no, so let's go on vibration running on the stairs. So, no, from the bottom, because you've had to...
So if I hit my arm...
I'll try that, yeah.
Could be. But we didn't hear that sound, the bang, until I got to here.
What I'm suggesting here, either the air or vibration, because you're a heavy guy too, or a big, you went like that, it went like that and fell.
So I devised a couple of time and motion experiments to see the likelihood of Steve knocking the picture he went by, the time it would take to fall, and Steve's location at the time.
I was trying to experiment about the timing thing. Instead of running from there, and you got there and it went bang, run from here to that door, because as soon as your foot moves, I'm going to drop that corner, and I want to see if that goes bang.
Well, I didn't go up the stairs in twos, I went up in ones.
Well, so if that was what happened, you'd hit it from there, right?
Yeah.
So you got the time from there to when you got outside Keith's door before it went bang.
Alright.
Yeah.
So as soon as I get to that edge, I'll clap my hands, you know.
Yeah, but hold it, you're assuming that you completely knocked it off.
No, I'm not assuming anything, I'm just working on the time factor.
Could have been vibration.
He's not going to touch this now, I'm going to actually drop it. Difference being is, I'm going to drop it after he's passed it. If it bangs then, before he gets to the door, there's no way, you know, because it doesn't matter how it's still going to drop at the same speed, it's the same weight and everything, so it's just the time thing I'm looking at. I'm basically giving you a head start before that even starts to fall, rather than you knock it, bang.
There's one thing, of course, the correlation between the alarms going off and the timing of this fall.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just a wee bit suspicious that...
So, let me do this. Normal speed that you're, as far as you're aware.
Exactly the same process, right?
Go.
No. He was there and settled.
You was outside the door when that went. That's a long lot of time. There's a big time difference between when we had the bang and when you passed the thing. Try it one more time. Okay. So, see, you've got a head start and it still doesn't work out. So let me take this. I'm now not going to drop this until you get to here, and I want to see if that hits before you get to that door. Last time when that banged, you had passed it at that point there.
Yeah.
You was actually in the doorway.
I was kind of here.
I had to come out of the room with you, and you was there. You had to go like, what was that?
Yeah.
There's no way you've got time to knock that with your elbow, run up here and get to this point. That would have to fall in slow motion to do that. That's the thing I'm saying about the time thing.
It is interesting at the same time that these were...
Plus, they were at the same time. It's not conclusive, I'm just trying to demonstrate the chances that it's you just knocking it off the wall and it banging is pretty minimal based on the time.
Pretty interesting stuff there. You know, alternative explanation maybe, but I personally cannot see a way physically if that was not the position of Steve, difference between that and the bang where Steve's position was. I was in there with him, we had a couple of words, also coinciding with the alarm going off. Just going to see Keith now to see what monitoring he's actually got in this house.
Yeah, so this is my master bedroom, and for the last 2 hours I have been
I had an idea, and I'm sort of kind of running with it, of lacing the bedroom and the bathroom with tripwire.
Okay.
Because I've noticed during this time of day, when I'm home working, normally it's here by myself, they walk a path of bathroom, bedroom, hallway.
Well, that's what it seems to be.
That's what it seems to be, yeah. So I figured, why not just lace what I think that pathway to be, have a camera in there, hasn't been a camera in the bedroom in a long time, that can pan to all my lay down wires on the floor, bed. I can pivot left to right, up, down.
And then, of course, if the alarm does go on, you can see if there's anything obvious.
I can see it. I can monitor it from my cell phone, from computer in the office, and from computer downstairs, and never have to go into this room again until time to retrieve those items. But yeah, I can monitor it, put some voice recorders in there. I find the timing coincidental, or too much of a coincidence. Inconclusive.
Yeah.
In a sense of alarm, Steve's there,
bang,
a bang, and another portion of the house, and all attention gets diverted to that because it was a loud bang, poster or picture came down off the wall, and now we're doing that.
So that's interesting. We don't know if it's paranormal. Mm-hmm. We don't know if it was just mundane explanation, but our job is to investigate, and this is the sort of thing that we have to do.
Yeah, but I mean, most pictures don't fall off the wall when you go up the stairs.
No, but we ran off.
Still not. I'm touching the wall, and it's not.
Yeah. Also, it's quite high up as well. I mean, we took all this into consideration, the height and everything.
Yeah.
But a loud, very loud bang. Steve was there, so.
Well, I guess they knew your back.
Yeah. Something like that, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else upstairs? Because I want to kind of go and look at the woods with you.
Oh, the woods.
Yeah.
We can do that now.
Okay.
We can do that.
Cool.
Of course, a mundane, rational explanation would be Steve actually knocked the picture, or caught it with his arm as he passed it on his way up to the stairs. But the time and motion experiment actually suggested this just may not have actually been the case. I'm still unsure, but remain unconvinced either way as to whether it was something mundane or it could have been something else. Certainly, the time and motion experiment was quite suggestive that it could have been something else. It's another mystery of the Keith Linder house. Attentions were then drawn to the woods and the creek which lay beyond Keith's house. Once again, voices were captured, disembodied voices from here and from around the house during the investigation.
So Don, what I gathered is that you really like to immerse yourself in some of the harder to get places. For instance, you were crawling around into the house last time you were here. This time you left the property and went a little further out into the woods in the middle of the night.
There's all these kind of occurrences. We was looking for the source. Where could it be coming from? Because a lot of times people, say the house is haunted, and they'll concentrate on the house. This here is undeveloped land, so therefore this would have all been native tribal land. So I didn't know if there was any link between that and Keith's house. Obviously I climbed over the fence, climbed down there, which I wouldn't recommend, and spent an hour or two in there and picked up some interesting vocals.
This was 2 o'clock in the morning. You're sitting out here in the dark.
And this is important. You've got to do these things at that time of the morning because obviously noise contamination, to somebody in the street, it could sound like an EVP. But the responses we got certainly were not likened to a child or somebody talking at 2 o'clock in the morning that would be there at that time.
What did you hear?
There was one instance in particular where I kind of just got the impression, shall we say, there may be somebody or something there or presence, and I just basically said it would be useful if there's somebody here, could you give me your first name? Now the interesting thing about that, just instantly, the recording didn't sound really distant, it sounded quite close to me, and he gave his first name. Okay, now the thing is, that's a direct response to a direct question at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's not a sound that sounds like somebody saying a name. It was a direct response. It was proper vocal response. So is it linked to Keith? I don't know, but obviously it's just something that we have to investigate.
To go further down and then you've got your walkie-talkie.
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
It was treacherous, and as I made my way through the thick woods, I was sensing nothing unusual. Eventually I came across an area which was a little more accommodating. Okay, is the camera still working?
No, we lost the camera about...
Okay, I'm going down deeper, down to the creek area.
Roger.
I think we've got some night vision. Amazingly thick, but I'm trying to see if there's any connection to Keith's, because there will be a source where it's coming from. You know, we have established that there are things going on which we all agree are paranormal. Not everything paranormal, but there is certain things, and obviously the voice captures the replies. That is paranormal. So I'm just waiting to feel a rush of energy. In a minute I feel like I'm being watched from a distance, which is not uncommon. It was whilst taking another recording, this freakish wind howled through the woods. And then this disembodied female voice was captured, who appears to ask, "Who's this?" Following another question, and just like before, a female voice is heard, which seems to be in response which was captured by the camera audio. But yet again, we can't be sure of who or what it was. Is there a connection between this place and Keith? That's all I'm trying to establish. I hadn't been in the woods for some time, and I suddenly became aware of a spirit presence. At the same time, I noticed a drop in temperature, and although the timing was perfect, it could have been coincidental. You can see me. Can you show yourself? I asked one final question, highlighting the fact that it would be the last one, and therefore the final opportunity before I return to the others. That I'm going to be expecting, unless I feel a big blast of energy on my way back out, in which case I will stop and we will start again. I was answered by a spirit who identified himself buried as or Ray. Discovered somewhere within these woods. That a first name would be good. This was recorded directly onto the video camera microphone and in real time.
What does it say about a guy that likes to go out and sit in the woods on a creepy, dark night?
We do whatever we have to do. You know, it's not a case of liking. I mean, I don't look forward to crawling around in the crawl spaces or crawling around in the dark in woods and things, but at the end of the day, we are searching for answers, and we just do anything that involves is to try and get them answers. We'll never prove 100% one way or another what these things that happen are, but I think it's important that if people are experiencing such phenomena, that, you know, it's okay to put it out there and ask.
Who's Ray?
I have no idea.
Good question, right?
Good question.
Okay.
Keith had reported a number of strange markings that had appeared on his walls and doors in the house, and in fact there was a strange undulating pattern to them. An artist described them as a work of art and could not work out the process of application, wasn't sprayed, painted or dripped on. In fact, David Rose from Fox TV came out to find out what was the story behind the strange markings.
Why is this door in the middle of your garage?
So 3 weeks ago, I was in my office and I saw my closet door. It was open, don't have it closed. I saw on the door that there were parts that I did not paint over. You see this is white here, and it's a little bit different off-color white here. So when I saw this is missing because they took it off to study and analyze it, and I saw this, I came up with the idea, and I emailed these guys, of taking it to the paint store and having the guys at the paint store look at it. Number one, tell me what kind of brush or spray or what tool method could do this, and what kind of paint is this. So we took the door off the hinges in my office and carried it or drove it to the paint store, and then had the guys look at it, and they couldn't tell me what this and this was. okay, and then they couldn't tell me what type of method was used to paint that. Granted, they're not seeing the 6 that's covered up here, but it's enough to go on. And the guy was like, I don't know what that is. So
What used to be on this door?
this is the 666 from the office, painted over that. So, and this was all over the door, but they didn't know. So it's kind of like a wasted trip. And then it was time to bring this door back home. And then that's when our friend Patty noticed these things on the inside of the cover of her truck.
So the same markings on the cover match this design?
Yeah. I went to the paint store because these guys mess with paint every day. And when they're dumbfounded, I'm especially dumbfounded because they're looking at these and they don't know what it is. But I'm hoping they knew what it was, but they didn't know. So we're rubbing this, so I'm looking at this, and then now it's time just to bring the door back, okay? Bring the door back, mission failure. But now I got this on a friend's truck, more so spread out, and it's the same patterns, or it's the same, well, no more, it's the same color. It's the same streaks, same dots, same acrylic feel, and it's all over the cover of her truck. And we're in that truck. It's 5 minutes to get there, 5 minutes to come back, 20 minutes in the store. We were going about 30 minutes. And it's right up the street. So whatever did this, to the truck, did it in a time frame of 30 minutes.
Wow.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
And the contents of the truck was all dry. Nothing was wet on the cover of the truck. Yeah, so the truck started out just being a means of carrying my office closet door to the paint store to get the paint store analyzed. And it's about 5 minutes up the street to paint store. And they couldn't tell what was the paint itself, what was made out of, the method used to paint that on the door. So we came back empty-handed, put the door back into the flatbed, and drove back. And then when we pulled up into the driveway, as I was pulling the door out, she lifted this up and she noticed all these markings. And if you look close, you see these patterns, and they're kind of scattered throughout the truck. There's these weird lines, streaks, kind of like a spin, spiral, little dots and everywhere, and throughout the whole truck. And
this was not here before?
No, that was not here before.
Because it almost looks like somebody took a pencil and, went like that, but that's not what it is, huh?
No, because this goes all the way down. It's throughout. It's here. You got to really look.
Oh, I see.
If you see,
what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere, even here. It's here, there. It's throughout the cover of the truck. And the thing I notice about these markings is they're identical to what's on the door, of the closet door. And I can show you the closet door and let you do a comparison yourself, because you're going to see familiar themes of the dots, the streaks. It's black, obviously. And I think we were probably in this truck maybe 10 minutes to and fro. We spent maybe 20 minutes of the time being gone in the store. And yeah, it's just weird.
So what do you think it is?
I think somehow by us putting the door back here, either, for lack of a better word, some type of weird ghost cross-contamination type deal. That's as far as my mind will let me go with this, because number one, this is not my truck. It's her husband's truck. She did text him while here and say, honey, are these markings, on this truck before? He's like, no, I've never seen that before. He would know, it being his truck.
Do they scrape off or anything? Or
they took samples off the one in the door. I'm going to, before moving, he's going to give this to me and replace it, because it's going to be used for research moving forward. But they have not scraped this. This is the first time this has been back to the house since the first day. But all this is on the office, so they want to scrape it off here and compare it to the markings on the closet door to see, number one, are the ingredients the same? They're pretty sure the signature is the same, but they want to see if the same, what's this stuff made out of? Is it acrylic? Is it paint? What is it?
The markings, which had seemingly appeared on Keith's walls, ceilings and doors, were actually unusual for many, many reasons. One of the things is that the actual application itself, it wasn't dripped on, from what we said, it wasn't sprayed on. Me and Steve spent an awful long time researching different paint methods, different applications, and even spray equipment. I even had a little sneaky look around Keith's garage, which he wasn't aware of, looking for some kind of spray canister which would have that effect. You know, we're there to investigate, and when we investigate, we have to investigate all possibilities. But needless to say, we didn't find anything, and neither could we match that spray pattern to anything else which could have caused it. I'm not actually saying that there's nothing out there to replicate that pattern, but we spent an awful long time and we didn't find anything.
The only thing we could find which closely matched and resembled the patterns on Keith's walls was through the decorative arts of the native Indians. Their horsehair pottery, achieved by heating up a kiln, placing their pottery inside and then literally placing horsehair upon the surface, leaving behind a permanent carbon-based pattern. Comparing both Keith's sample and the picture on the right hand side, they do seem to resemble each other very closely. Things took a further twist when these substances began to weep down the walls.
This type of activity was 2 years ago of something being on the walls.
Okay.
So this gave me a little bit of rise of suspicion because I haven't had this level of activity in about 2 years.
So what did you find?
Last week came home, normal work day, came into the house sort of like this, turned the TV on and sat right here to watch the news. In about 30 minutes of sitting down, I'm looking straight at the TV and I'm seeing streaks coming from underneath the painting, okay? And knowing that that's something worth looking at because number one, is streaks coming down and there's no pipe, there's nothing plumbing behind this wall, but this does fit the MO of previous activity.
So what'd you do?
So I got up and I took this off to see what the streaks were. And you can see there's 3 streaks. There's like a circle down, circle down, circle down. I looked at this one first because first I thought, is there a hole or something here that's coming from? And there isn't. And then I came over to this one, there isn't, no hole. And at the time when this was happening, this was sort of wet. It's kind of oily, not sticky though, but very oily, very light. And I ran and got a tissue to see if it had a color. So I laid a tissue on it, no color. And I called Patty because she lives relatively close. And I wanted to get a witness to vouch, number one, that I didn't do it, and have her see it to see, because when she got here 30 minutes later, it was still coming down. So took photos, took videos of these, and if you can look at you'll see from different angles, there's no source for that to come from the wall. And me and Patty looked there for like an hour, and then I saw emailing, calling those guys.
So why do you think your walls are leaking?
Well, I don't think the walls itself is leaking. I think this is the entity that lives here's way of getting attention. Because number one, I'm watching TV, I'm looking straight like this. What better way to give me attention or get itself attention than, hey, let me just throw some streaks in his peripheral view. He's watching TV. This is an oddball. There's no reason why this should be coming from the back of a photo. There's nothing, this photo's been here for over a year. Now I got this, so let me get up and analyze it, and that's what they do. Once you get up and start poking around, it's letting you know, yeah, we're still here, we're still doing our little thing. It's a lower degree compared to a plant flying, which, I'll take this versus a plant flying any day.
What is it? It's kind of sticky? It's
oily. It's almost like a canola oil type texture. The guys took samples and they're going to take it back to the UK and analyze it.
Huh. You really want somebody else to move into this house?
I mean, yeah, no, I mean.
I don't know. I think if the walls are stuff running out of them. It is kind of oily a little bit. What's interesting is that it starts kind of, you can see where it just kind of starts, right?
Yeah, it's got a point of start. It's got a, I mean, it'd be different if it was up here because you're like, okay, leak your roof, crack somewhere. You know, it's been raining the last couple of weeks. Something up there I got to go investigate. But this starts almost at the line of the painting, okay? But it's coming down. And it just, like I said, it just wants you to know it's still here. You know, it's been quite a few days leading into this. Something happens, and then it'll be a stretch between the next event.
I did a little research to see if I could find any other case where there's any similarities between that and what Keith had found running down his walls. The only other case I could find was one in Australia. They too had liquid running down the walls that closely resembles that found on Keith's. The picture on the left was taken at Keith's, the Bothell house, the one on the right from the other case. It was also reported that the analysis of this other case inexplicably found the substance contained high levels of uranium and gold. Would it be possible that our sample too could contain these ingredients? During the investigation, we'd already taken a sample from Keith's wall. Now it was time to take a closer look. Under close magnification, the structure was not what we was expecting to find, as can be seen in the following slides. This sample has since been forwarded to a university for qualified analysis and opinion. We are awaiting their conclusion. Keith Linder had claimed it was a poltergeist that destroyed his house during the highest intensity of paranormal phenomena. Both the damage alongside Keith's attempts to mask the damage were clearly apparent. Steve Mera researched a little further. Could there be any kind of link between the heightened reported activity and the lunar cycle?
Taken notes in regards to the type of disturbances and when they had started in 2012 and it continued to 2015. We noted these on graphs as the most significant incidents seem to be taking place around the spring, what you refer to as the spring rise or spring equinox, and also the summer rise, the summer solstice. But there was a number, say 2 or 3 events that did not fall into this pattern. It does not follow predicted path. We also looked into the lunar cycle correlations to check to see if there's an association regarding peak experiences and peak increases. August the 16th, 2012's new moon, April the 16th, 2013's waxing crescent moon, August the 16th, 2013 waxing skipper's moon. You know, it doesn't really matter what was happening. There was not a significant lunar cycle at the highest times of phenomena taking place in Keith's home. On one particular evening, we set up the laser tripwires to opt for a different method of investigation. Now, what was interesting is that immediately we'd set them up, there was an alert state, and of course we ran upstairs to try and find out what had alerted it, and we heard small footsteps running away to the end of the landing. In fact, triggering the second laser tripwire that was at the end of the hallway. I have no explanation what that was, but even though we were in pursuit, we didn't see anything. Part of our methods of investigations also employed the use of small cameras on telephones. The mobile camera was used to take a 5-second video piece and a photograph from every room in the house, just something we do occasionally. And it was pretty much forgotten until we came back home and I was flicking through the phone photos when we actually saw something quite unusual. We caught something that resembles a figure, and with no explanation for what that figure could have been or how a shadow seems to appear on the wall. What is interesting is that it doesn't seem to match up with the normal characteristics of shadows in that room at that time.
This is the video footage taken on the stairs. The still on the left is that taken from the video camera. Looking at the photo on the right, we can clearly see that the shadow was visible only to the photographic camera and not the video equipment.
The highlight of one particular evening was our saccade and optokinetics test in a controlled environment with no human agencies. And in fact, we left it running for probably around about an hour, not expecting to get any footage, but when we obtained it, we were taken back simply because there was footage there of something being caught on camera.
Motion detection equipment on the landing was triggered, producing these very interesting anomalous images.
How did that go off?
I don't know. We weren't in there.
We weren't in there?
No. I'll have to take it off from downstairs.
Okay.
What is your determination about the level of activity in the house now? And go back and talk about what's caused this, do you think?
The cause of this phenomenon is pretty much unknown. I mean, initially it was very confusing because with poltergeist infestations, we're normally dealing with usually children, adolescents in the environment. It usually affects individuals and families which are usually having some type of problems or trauma in the family, be it financial difficulties, family issues, living conditions, environmental problems, those sort of issues. Well, to be honest, we've not found any of those things here, which just makes it really an unusual case. However, some of the phenomena that's taking place is certainly demonstrative of poltergeist infestations. But at this moment in time, I would say that we've actually dropped that subdued it to kind of just like a footprint of haunting, a low level, low frequency, low severity haunting. We could be dealing with a location which is haunted.
You would not caution somebody about moving into the house. You feel this house is safe.
I feel the house is safe. Absolutely. I don't think that there will be a problem for anybody moving.
Some people would say, I'm not spending the night in the house.
Well, in the UK, people would love to move into a house like this. It's very popular. However, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's a beautiful home. It's lovely. It's a new build on a new estate. There's children playing outside. It's a sunny day. It's the last thing on your mind. That's something paranormal might be taking place here. The thing is, we've pressed it here. We analyse it. We take it apart. We entice. We try and find what's really going on, and we have managed to get things which would suggest yes, there is still a haunting condition here. However, most people living their lives, going to work, coming home, watching TV, they've got children and stuff, they probably wouldn't experience anything. For us, we have our methods of obtaining that evidence.
Unfortunately, we were not called in right at the start, at the beginning of this case, when these strange markings and symbols appeared on Keith's doors, ceilings and his walls. Therefore, we cannot conclude on something we were not involved in at the time. All what we can conclude on is our own findings of the investigation.
It does give some sort of credence to possible attachment. My biggest fear when I move is this thing going to follow me.